Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Shri Prabhupada ki Shri Radha Madhav ji ki Gaur Pramanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtapraya Shabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10 entitled Samam Bowman, and chapter number 4, which is entitled The Atrocities of King Kamsa. And today's verses are 38 and 39. So we have 39 on the board because 38 doesn't have a purport. So I'll just recite 38 in the translation, and then we'll recite 39 together. Yatha mayo yang samupekshito nirvir na shakyate ruda padaschikitstitum yathendriya grama upekshitas ripur mahan baddha balo na chalyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. As a disease, if initially neglected, becomes acute and impossible to cure, or as the senses, if not controlled at first, are impossible to control later, an enemy, if neglected in the beginning, later becomes insurmountable. This is continuing from our discussions of when Kamsa is now conferring with his ministers about what he should do in his condition, that he has released Devaki and Vasudeva, and the ministers who are of the Asura clan are advising Kamsa to continue with his endeavors to protect his life, and also his sort of bestow his power or arrange his power for the three worlds, as it were. So we then recite verse 39, which is today's verse also, which has a purport. So all together. Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam. Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam. Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam. Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam. Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha. Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha. Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha. Tasya cha Brahma Govipra. Tasya cha Brahma Govipra. Tapo yajna sadakshinaha. Tapo yajna sadakshinaha. Mulam hi Vishnu Devana. Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha. Tasya cha Brahma Govipra. Tapo yajna cha dakshinaha.
Mulami Vishnu Devanam.
Mulami Vishnu Devanam.
Yatra Dharma Sanatana.
Yatra Dharma Sanatana.
Tasya cha Brahma Govipra.
Tasya cha Brahma Govipra.
Tapo yajna sadakshina.
Tapo yajna sadakshinaha.
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha.
Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha.
Tasya cha Brahma Govipras.
Tasya cha Brahma Govipras.
Tapo yajna sadikshanaha.
Tapo yajna sadakshinaha.
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha.
Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha.
Tasya Brahma Govipras.
Tasya cha Brahma Govipras.
Tapo yajna sadakshinaha.
Tapo yajna sadakshinaha. Mataji's?
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha.
Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha.
Tasya cha Brahma Govipras.
Tasya cha Brahma Govipras.
Tapo yajna sadakshinaha.
Tapo yajna sadakshinaha.
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Mulam hi Vishnu Devanam.
Yatra Dharma Sanatana.
Yatra Dharma Sanatanaha. Tasya cha Brahma Govipras. Tapo yajna sadakshinaha. Thank you. Word for word. Mulam, the foundation. He, indeed. Vishnu, is Lord Vishnu. Devanam, of the demigods. Yatra, wherein. Dharma, religious principles. Sanatanaha, traditional or eternal. Tasya, of this foundation. Cha, also. Brahma, Brahminical civilization. Go, cow protection. Vipraha, brahmanas. Tapaha, austerity. Yajnaha, performing sacrifices. Sadakshinaha, with proper remuneration. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The foundation of all the demigods is Lord Vishnu, who lives and is worshipped wherever there are religious principles, traditional culture, the Vedas, cows, brahmanas, austerities, and sacrifices with proper remuneration. Please repeat. The foundation of all the demigods is Lord Vishnu, who lives and is worshipped wherever there are religious principles, traditional culture, the Vedas, cows, brahmanas, austerities, and sacrifices with proper remuneration. Purport. Here is a description of Sanatan Dharma, eternal religious principles which must include Brahminical culture, brahmanas, sacrifices, and religion. These principles establish the kingdom of Vishnu. Without the kingdom of Vishnu, the kingdom of God, no one can be happy. Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. In this demoniac civilization, people unfortunately do not understand that the self-interest of human society lies in Vishnu. Dura shaya ye bahir artha maninaha. Thus, they are involved in a hopeless hope. People want to be happy without God consciousness or Krishna consciousness because they are led by blind leaders who lead human society to chaos. The Asuric adherents of Kamsa wanted to disrupt the traditional condition of human happiness and thus defeat the Devatas, the devotees and demigods. Unless the devotees and demigods predominate, the Asuras will increase and human society will be in a chaotic condition. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurue Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Ashatyade Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So I'd like to seek blessings of all the wonderful Vaishnavas, my seniors, my gurus who assembled here at this wonderful temple at New Mayapur Dham. I seek your permission to speak something of use and ask you also to keep me honest and give me the blessings so that we can say something of use. Thank you. So there are lots of themes in today's purports and the true translations that we read. We could discuss, but I wanted to focus on one particular theme. In the translation of the verse 39, Srila Prabhupada uses the term mulam in Sanskrit, and this is foundation, translated as foundation, which is defined in the English dictionary as that on which something is founded, or an underlying basis or principle, or the act of starting something for the first time and introducing something new. So we hear also in the translation and purport that Srila Prabhupada is saying that the foundation of all the demigods is, who did he say he was? Lord Vishnu, yes. And this is a very significant statement to establish that Lord Vishnu or Krishna is the source of everything. And because we know in the world today, not many people actually accept the supremacy of Krishna or the supremacy of Lord Vishnu, isn't it? So many sects are there, so many varieties of religious activities are there, where people are sort of guided towards a certain belief. But they don't buy into that Vishnu is actually the foundation of the entire religious principles of Sanatana Dharma. Because when they accept that, then the supremacy of Vishnu will permeate everywhere, into all parts of the world. But because of the advent of Kali Yuga, since the start of Kali Yuga, we know that Kali, the first personality he attacked, was Dharma. Dharma in the form of a bull and mother cow, in the form of the Mother Earth in the form of the cow. So this world is infiltrated by Kali Yuga. And we will discuss that a little bit more in a minute. But if we talk about the foundation and look at the evidence that why is Vishnu and Krishna supposed to be the fountainhead of the entire creation, Lord Brahma obviously says this in the Brahma Samhita in verse 5.1, as Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. And this is the thing. Because they have seen in historical books, which is now unfortunately called as mythology, they've seen the books that say, oh, Krishna came as himself in a material body. But Krishna didn't come in his material body, he came as himself. He came in his original body itself. That's why in the material world, spiritual activities, when performed, are performed with so much accuracy that it can surpass the material energies. Isn't it? We can see all the empowered beings that have been in our lineage, in our parampara, have surpassed the material conditioning. And so therefore, how can somebody from the spiritual world come here and take up only a material position? It's not possible. So this way, Srila Prabhupada goes on further to describe the key principles of our original, eternal religious principles, Sanatana Dharma, which includes the 6 tenets described in the translation and the purport. He talks about traditional culture. If you look at ISKCON, we are actually trying to establish that traditional culture. We wear a traditional dress, we put a traditional tilak, we have a shika, which is very traditional. The Vedas, we have the scriptures. Prabhupada painstakingly established the scriptures again. Not only that, he transliterated word for word every Sanskrit word of the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and many other books. So how many verses are there in the Bhagavad Gita? 700 verses, right? How many verses are there in the Srimad Bhagavatam? 18,000 verses. So not only did he convert each and every verse of the Bhagavad Gita, transliterated them and then translated them and then wrote a purport. He did that also for Srimad Bhagavatam. How many verses are there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? 12,000. So many verses. And then not only that, he didn't stop there, he wrote 80 other books. Phenomenal achievement in just short number of years that he was on this planet. Phenomenal, isn't it? This is why an empowered personality can do such an activity in the material world, because he's spiritually empowered. This is what we are also trying to access through the scriptures themselves. So as I was saying, the 6 tenets of the Sanatana Dharma, traditional culture, the Vedas, cows. Prabhupada was very keen on having goshalas. We have in many of our centers goshalas which are protected. Cows are protected. They're not sent to slaughterhouses as soon as they give up giving milk. Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are being trained. They're being trained so that they can come to the platform of Brahmanas. Cleanliness, truthfulness, austerity, etc. Austerity itself and sacrifice with proper remuneration. Proper remuneration means nothing beyond like what the footballers and the cricketers and the sportsmen get in this day and age, which is completely distorted amongst what the hard-working people of the land get. They work, they play football, they kick this ball of air around for the pleasure of the masses of people, and then they call that their sport. It might as well be a religion, because it is. There's a chant. In a cricket game, in a rugby game, in a football game, there's a uniform. They follow a certain ritual. Isn't it? It's a religious principle. Okay, they may not like to call it religion, but this is what it is. So, therefore, it's not with proper remuneration at all. It's completely distorted. This is what happens in an Asuric civilization. So now in our story so far in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the ministers of the Asura king Kamsa, are now advising the king that for the entire Asura clan, the root of their disease, they call it disease, which must be uprooted entirely and immediately, is this worship of Lord Vishnu, which is giving the pious and the demigods their power. Isn't it? So, Srila Prabhupada continues in the purport that the Asuras don't understand that they themselves won't really be happy without the worship of Lord Vishnu. Welcome. Because he says, Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. This term swartha means only self-interest. It was quite interesting the way this class has come about, and yesterday we heard Srila Prabhupada give his class, right? In that class, he actually used this term, Swartha Gatim Him Vishnu. Because this verse comes from Canto 7, Chapter 5, verse 31, which we'll come to in a minute. So this verse, Swartha, means self-interest, because Prabhupada really talked about self-interest yesterday in his class. So then, basically he's talking about the people, the leaders of this world, they don't have the self-interest that is supposed to have. They don't have the real self-interest. The real self-interest of every individual on this material world is to please Lord Vishnu and understand that they are the servant of him and return back home, back to Godhead. That's the real self-interest. But unfortunately, there's all the other activities that are going on, which is not really self-interest. It's actually a detriment to the self-interest, but they think through swartha, through only thinking about themselves, that is their original interest. The verse also continues with Durasaya ye bahir artha maninaha. Thus they are involved in hopeless hope. People want to be happy without God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, but they are led by blind leaders who lead human society into chaos. Isn't it true? Right now, look how chaotic this whole world is. How many wars are there right now? At least 3 major wars. Right. And then so many other small wars which we don't even hear about in the news. Isn't it? So we are seeing this very much in today's society. Only a few are worshipping Lord Vishnu. So in the main, the entire world is actually in chaos because the blind leaders who are very swarthy or interested in their own welfare only. There is so much corruption, it's unbelievable. People think there is so much poverty, so then the charity will begin, save the children in Africa, give them clean water, save the hungry from dying from hunger, the homeless. None of this should be really required if there wasn't corruption in the highest level, who are just siphoning off all the resources of this world because they are blind. They are materially blind and spiritually blind, and they're leading the world into chaos. So this term Durasaya ye bahir antamanina, referenced in, as I said, Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 5, entitled Prahlad Maharaj, the Saintly Son of Hiranyakashipu, verse 31, which goes, Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu, Durashaya ye bahirarthamanina, Andayathandair upaniyamanas tepe shatantriam urudam nibada. Amazing, you know the verse. So this was Swartha Gatim, the ultimate goal of life, or their real own interest. And Anda, by other blind men. Upaniyamana, being led. So these are very important things that Prahlad Maharaj actually says. So in this translation, which I won't read all of it because it's quite a lot, persons who are strongly entrapped by consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru are similarly blind, attached to external sense objects, cannot understand the real goal of life, to return back home, back to Godhead, and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. So that continues about the blind theory. Blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men. So this is the issue. In the purport, I'll just mention one part. There's another concept that's been also introduced by Prahlad Maharaj. He says, since there must always be a difference of opinion between demons and devotees, which we actually have in this verse also, Hiranyakashipu, when criticized by his son Prahlad Maharaj, should not have been surprised that Prahlad Maharaj differed from his way of life.
What chapter is it in the Sankirtan?
Oh yes, it's chapter 5, verse 31. 7:5:31. Yeah. And so we know Hiranyakashipu was criticized by Prahlad Maharaj because Prahlad Maharaj was brought up in a very, very nice way. He had a great foundation. So we'll talk about foundations in a minute because there's something really interesting is coming up in this purport. Nonetheless, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry that his son was a devotee of Vishnu. And he was so angry that he wanted to rebuke his son for deriding his teachers or spiritual masters. He considered himself as the spiritual master of Prahlad Maharaj, and the teachers, the material teachers, as his teachers, as his gurus. And so, because the spiritual masters who had been born in a Brahmana family of the great Acharya Sukracharya. So you know Sukracharya is the Acharya of the demons, right? The word Sukra means semen, and Acharya refers to the teacher or guru. Hereditary gurus or spiritual masters have been accepted everywhere since time immemorial. But Prahlad Maharaj, this is the interesting part, Prahlad Maharaj declined to accept such seminal gurus or take instruction from them. An actual guru is Shrotriya. Shrotriya means one who has heard or received perfect knowledge through parampara, the disciplic succession. Not just the caste brahmanas that are just born into a brahmana family or a lineage. Oh yeah, because you're born in this lineage, you are accepted as a guru. This was also the problem of Ashwadama. If you know, Dronacharya, the great brahmana teacher, and a Kshatriya, which is a bit of a mix. Ashwadama was considered as I'm the brahmana's son, so you should respect me. No. That didn't happen in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So this is what Prahlad Maharaj is also saying. We shouldn't just accept blind leaders. Because by accepting blind leaders, we get a chaotic material world. This is the issue. So Prahlad Maharaj did not recognize a seminal spiritual master. Such spiritual masters are not at all interested in Vishnu. Indeed, they are hopeful of material success, which is the word Bahir Artha Maninaha. This Maninaha. The Bahir means external, Artha means interest, and Maninaha, taking very seriously. Only sense gratification. That's all they want to do. So, we again see that Prahlad Maharaj has become such an authority that he can reject this great guru of the demon Sukracharya in this way. Why? Because from the outset, as we discussed, Prahlad Maharaj has had a foundational education or knowledge about the real purpose of this human form of life. From his guru, who was his guru? Narada Muni. Yes. The great Narada Muni, who's the sage among sage. He's a sage of the demigods. Advised and guided Prahlad Maharaj through the womb of the wife of Hiranyakashipu. Everyone knows the story of Prahlad Maharaj, so I won't really go into I won't repeat it because we have got lack of time. But the point is, to have great spiritual life, we need the right foundation. And because of that right foundation, we can then establish that religious principles, at least within the tenets of ISKCON. Prabhupada gave us the whole ISKCON world, a house of ISKCON where the whole world can live into it. He said that, right? And so therefore, that foundation of that ISKCON world is very strong. He's the Jagat Guru for the next 10,000 years, in that period of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So as usual, in my study of any sort of course, I do refer to one particular book, especially for Bhagavatam, is book Bhagavat by His Holiness Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj, and to see what he says about foundations, about these kind of things. And I found many, many things that he mentions that there are indispensable foundations of success. Would you like to know what these indispensable foundation of success are? Yeah? Okay. So there are a few, and I'll ask you some questions also after this, so please pay attention. Srila Prabhupada is considered the Srimad Bhagavatam, along with the Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita, the substantial foundation of his International Society of Krishna Consciousness. The Vedas, because remember, when he traveled from India to America, he traveled on what? A cargo ship, a freighter called the Jaladuta. And he said, and somebody was remarking, I think it was his son who was remarking, so So, Father, you are finally going to USA, to America. He goes, no, I'm not going to America. Bhagavatam is going to America, and I'm accompanying Bhagavatam to go to America. So that is the foundation which he painstakingly, as we discussed, translated into English, following his spiritual master's orders. So this is also a great foundation that he received from his spiritual master. We are constantly receiving foundational things, foundational messages. But if we are receptive, we will imbibe that as a foundation in our spiritual psychology and build upon that. When we build upon a spiritual foundation, anything material becomes successful. That is a fact, proven by many personalities in the parampara itself. And as discussed by Keshav Maharaj in his book Bhagavad, they are indispensable foundation. That's why it makes them indispensable. So he created ISKCON for the purpose of propagating Vaishnava theology, devotion to Lord Krishna, and he directed his disciples to publish and distribute these scriptures as widely and in as many languages as possible. There are over 80 languages now that our books have been translated into, Prabhupada's books have been translated into. Isn't it wonderful? And more are being translated. So just as Bhagavad Gita encompasses the 5 main topics, Atma, Prakriti, Karma, Kala, Ishvara, the Srimad Bhagavatam composed the 10 foundational subjects. Different teachers have varying explanations of these 10 topics, but in the Gaudiya lineage, Jiva Goswami, the preeminent authority, actually contained within it every canto a greater or lesser degree. The Tattva Sandarbha of the Goswamis briefly discussed the scope of each subject, explaining the first 9 topics exist simply to help one approach and appreciate the 10th topic, which is
Ashraya.
yes, Ashraya, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, shelter of all. So this is the second foundational topic discussed in the book. The third foundational topic on page 90, where Maharaj describes the orders of life, he states that the brahmacharya ashram, the student life, one observes the vow of celibacy and receives training in self-realization from a spiritual master or other Shiksha Gurus. His education centers around scriptural knowledge, character development and practical skills. Whether he goes on to marry or eventually retire from family life, or whether he goes directly into the renounced order of life of sannyas, the practice of brahmacharya is the indispensable foundation of success. See, there you go. This is why Varnashram is so important that Prabhupada wants it established. At least within our temples, if not in the entire world. We should actually follow in every temple some level of Varnashram. Here at New Mayapur, we are very fortunate. We have wonderful personalities like Gopaswami and other Srila Prabhupada disciples who are regularly, and Janardhan Maharaj, who are regularly practicing these vows. And there is a clear Varnashram here. And so therefore, the temple is growing in the right way because the foundation has been re-established. On page 214, Narada Muni further instructs Maharaj Yudhishthira about the foundational qualities of a civilized human being and the ingenious system of Varnashram, which we just talked about. This is actually for the civilized humans. Without Varnashram, there is no civilization. Basically, you can see, it's just dog eat dog, literally, and inhumane society, who are just enjoying material sense gratification, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. No worse, no better off than animals, isn't it? So this is the point, this is the actual issue. So Narada Muni describes this system of Varnashram, which actually was created by the Lord himself. So like that. So in that way you can think of many others, foundational, genuine, spiritual foundations that are there. Some individuals in the parampara who got right foundations, like we heard Prahlad Maharaj got the right foundation from Narada Muni, right? And so through gurus, sadhus and shastra, which is also another genuine spiritual preceptors, a firm foundation, which is what we are founded upon, our ISKCON. There are many, many personalities like that. So can you think of any personalities who actually also got the right foundation from the very outset?
Srila Vyasadeva.
Within ISKCON or within anything that
Srila
you...
Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva, yes. Srila Vyasadeva. Who did he get the foundational from?
From Narada.
From his spiritual master Narada Muni. Vyasadeva was, when he wrote all the scriptures, the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras, he was still unhappy. But then, because of his spiritual master, he got the right guidance from Narada Muni to actually describe the spiritual tenet of the actual entire the knowledge, Vedanta Sutra. So then he wrote about Krishna consciousness, and Srimad Bhagavatam was created. Any other examples? Yes? Srila Prabhupada himself, yes. Who did he get his foundation from? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. Because before he met Bhaktisiddhanta, yes, it was preordained in his astrological chart. What was it said in his astrological chart? Srila Prabhupada's astrological chart? He will travel the world at the age of 70 or the old age and open 108 temples around the world. But for that to happen, he needed the foundation. He needed the spiritual know-how, the knowledge. And just by one first meeting with a pure devotee, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his inert knowledge was started. The Bhakti Lata Beach was well and truly planted. I mean, that was planted before by his father, but it was being nicely watered by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Isn't it? So this is why gurus are so important, especially spiritual masters. Because spiritual masters remove the karma, but they in fact impart transcendental knowledge to you and instructions. So it's very, very key. Nice, thank you, nice example. Any others? What about Parikshit Maharaj himself? Parikshit Maharaj, who did he get instructions from? Sukadeva Goswami. But before that, who did he get darshan from? Paramatma himself, Krishna himself. Because the Brahmastra of Ashwadama was coming towards the womb of Uttara. And so Krishna himself went inside and protected him. What a great foundation. You see, it doesn't have to be a whole series of events and processes and procedures to have a foundation. It can just be a momentary introduction, like we've seen with Prabhupada, with a pure devotee or the personality of Godhead himself. So our foundation, this is very, very important also, because the foundation that we want to create in our spiritual life is already given to us by Prabhupada. Through the parampara system, through the books, through the processes that we already do here. ISKCON itself is a wonderful foundation Prabhupada has created. We have a morning program which is processed very nicely. It's been going on for over 50 years now, isn't it? Still going on. In just short period of time, from 108 temples we have over 800 now. That is powerful, that is spiritual. Because if you look at another spiritual activity, so Prabhupada, we all know he was a Shakti Avesh avatar, right? Spiritually empowered. To prove that, in just 3 years, between 1968 and 1971, in 1968, do you know how many disciples he had? 50, yeah. 50, 60, 50 disciples. And how many centers did he have?
4, 5.
Yeah, 6. Only 6 centers. That's in 1968. In 1971, how many disciples did he have?
Few thousand.
500 actually
500.
itself. This is only in 3 years. 68, 69, 70, 71. 500. So from 50 to 500, that's an amazing growth. In any business term, if you look at the business term, that's a great growth. How many centers did he have? Remember, he had only had 6 in 68. So how many did he have by 71?
100.
Over 70.
So that's
Over 70 centers. I mean, we struggle to create centers these days for years, and in 3 years he'd done himself with a very, very naive, very, very new disciple group. And he created so many centers so quickly. That's spiritual empowerment. That is the empowerment of Sri Krishna on him. Any other example of foundation? Yes, Prabhu.
Mahaprabhu established the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya,
Yes.
coming from the seed plant of Madhavendra Puri Gosai,
Yes.
the seed of Madhurya Prem,
Yes.
and Mahaprabhu planted that seed and it grew into a tree,
Wonderful.
Chaitanya tree.
Yes. Wonderful.
And ISKCON is one of the branches.
Wonderful example. Yes. Obviously, it came from Lord Buddha, Sankaracharya. Then, obviously, we know that story. But then Ramanujacharya, etc., like that, came along and created that foundation. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu re-established there the Vedas and also asked the Goswamis to propagate the fruits of that Chaitanya tree. Wonderful example, yes. Another example I've written down is Abhimanyu, who is the father of Parikshit Maharaj. Remember the story of Abhimanyu? What foundation did he get? In the womb of Subhadra, right? Arjuna was describing to him how to fight, because he was describing to actually to Subhadra how to penetrate a chatravyuha. A chatravyuha is a war technique of deploying your armies in a circular formation, that in such a circular formation that you can enter one and then you get closed in. And you penetrate another circle and you get closed in until you reach the center where the generals are. But there is a way to enter the Chakravyuh and there's a way to get out of the Chakravyuh. He only knew how to enter the Chakravyuh. He did not know, because that story, as recited by Arjuna, Mother Subhadra fell asleep. So then the baby also in her womb fell asleep. So she didn't hear, and therefore Abhimanyu didn't hear how to get out of the Chakravyuh. And that's why he was mercilessly killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Isn't it? So he also got a great foundation. Because of that penetration, they did not lose the war on that day. They lost Abhimanyu, but they didn't lose the war. This is so important, the foundation. Any others you can think of? Conscious of the time.
Another foundation is the market of the holy name created by Nityananda.
Yes.
Where he was selling the holy name just for the price of the thing.
What an amazing foundation. The holy name, which obviously brought by Lord Chaitanya, but propagated by the Adi Guru, Nityananda Prabhu. Isn't it? And that in itself is a wonderful foundation, because all he wants is you to chant. He begs us to chant. So what a wonderful foundation. I'm conscious of the time. It's just 10 minutes to. I wanted to leave some. Yes, Mataji.
Okay, so you talk about foundation and tradition. So a specific question about dress code. I've been discussing that with a friend. So within community, even one devotee said, we should go on the altar with Western pants and everything.
Okay.
So what's the scope?
What's the scope of the dress code? I mean, every aspect of society has a certain dress code. Every aspect of society has a certain dress code. You recognize all aspects of society, material world, with their certain dress code. You know the police is the police because they have a dress code. You know the school children are school children because they wear a certain dress code. You know that the army is an army because they're wearing a dress code. You can identify from one football team to another football team because they have a dress code. So therefore, to understand a saintly personality, they need to have a dress code. Because if we put somebody on the altar with just jeans and t-shirt, then where is the distinction between material activity and spiritual activity? Isn't it? So just like that, because there is a dress code for everything, we know that our foundation is a traditional culture. So therefore, we go back to tradition and have something so simple that it doesn't require so much thought. If we had a variety of jeans, pants, then we would be late every time for our altar service. Oh, which jeans shall I wear today? Because I know that I'm going to be looked like a really nice person when I'm offering the arti, not for Krishna, but to all the people who are watching. Isn't it? I will put with my jeans a nice shirt that, yeah, it may look nice to Krishna, but actually I want to look good so then I can attract the opposite sex. Isn't it? So then follow the advice that Prabhupada has given us and put the dhoti kurta on simple.
I mean, first of the question, do you always dress in the dhotis everywhere you go?
As much as I can, yes, unless it becomes impractical. Like for example, at the Bhaktivedanta Mana, we have to do field work, like work in outside. So that it's not very practical to wear a dhoti. So we wear trouser and shoes, proper shoes, so that it doesn't get muddy, it doesn't get dirty, like that. When I'm traveling long distance, but when I came here, I wore dhoti kurta because it's only an hour's flight. But if I'm flying 8 hours, 10 hours, 5 hours, etc., it just becomes more practical for me to take my luggage, to wear something simple. But I'll wear simple pant and t-shirt, not something elaborate. Something simple that I already have in the cupboard. I want to go, okay, I'm traveling. Let me go and buy something new. Unnecessary waste of money.
But for ladies, should it be like the word, especially for visitors, to dress in the chaste way instead of, saris, they can be worn in a very sensual way, by the way, it's not that. So,
I can't really comment on what ladies do, but yeah, obviously there is simplicity, because the whole point of the dress is, and the reason for keeping it simple is so that we have the time. It actually frees up time. We discussed this in our course actually when we were talking about dressing. It frees up time from, okay, what shall I wear today? What shall I mix this with that? When you already have simple dress, it's easy to just combine the things together like that. That's all I have to say. I don't want to comment more on these things because it's not really my position.
well, it's not your position, the teacher.
Yeah, but I've commented on what I think should be the right things, and I think that's probably about right. Yes, Prabhu, Gopaswami Prabhu.
Foundation, Prabhupada said that the foundation for worshipping Radha Krishna in Mayapur was first Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Wow, okay.
First you have to get purified by worshipping Lord Nitai. And then when you are purified, then you can properly worship Radha Krishna.
Radha Krishna.
And also he said that
Krishna
Balaram, spiritual life is difficult. You need, the foundation needs the spiritual strength. Without the basis of spiritual strength from Balaram, you cannot make it.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. So obviously we know Nityananda is not different to Balaram. And so we have two gurus here already on the altar. Obviously Krishna is there. Two gurus that to guide us into the perfectional stages of our spiritual practice. Like that, which is a wonderful foundation. So Prabhupada said the foundation is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And then that increases our own devotional practice, and that love that we actually, the main purpose of doing deity worship is to develop that prayojana, isn't it? Like that. Yes,
Would
Mother.
say perhaps even the GBC concept was introduced by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Of course, he took it from the Eastern Railway Company, actually.
Eastern Railway Company?
Yeah.
Okay.
He found out that the Eastern Railway Company was running on with the GBC, and he found it very great, and then he wanted to incorporate it in Chaitanya Math, but then he told them, you please implement it once I'm gone. But they never did.
Okay.
And because of that, Chaitanya Math collapsed. And that is why Prabhupada was so keen in 72, I think, to push forcefully the GBC, because that's the foundation. You don't want to repeat the same mistake that happened with the Chaitanya Math.
Yeah. What a wonderful advice. You see, again, he was receptive, because Prabhupada didn't have so many meetings with Bhaktisiddhanta, but he was receptive. He was a great listener. Shravanam. We make a point in our course, Shravanam Kirtanam. Shravanam has to be the key. He was a great listener, Prabhupada. So then even one or two words, he took it very personally from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. So what a great example. Thank you for that nice foundation. To the GBC, yes. But that foundation has to remain strong. The GBC, they have a voice, they have a very powerful state within ISKCON, but that has to remain like that. It has a long way to go. 9,500 years is a long time. Anything else? So just summarize. The foundations that are required, we talked about foundations that are required for us to progress in our spiritual life, and worship of Lord Vishnu or Krishna is the source of everything. We understood the 6 tenets of Sanatana Dharma. We talked about that. We learnt about the self-interest or swartha, of what should be our real self-interest, which is to please Krishna. We learnt through Prahlad Maharaj about our actual guru is Shrotriya, one who has heard or received perfectual knowledge through parampara, not just taking the guru or guidance from blind leaders who are just born into a family like that. And we learned this. Oh yeah, one thing I didn't read out from this purport of Prahlad Maharaj's section is the size of the material world. Does anybody know what the size in miles of the material world is? This material creation?
4 billion.
4 billion miles, yes. 4 billion miles is the limit of the entire material world.
This universe.
This universe, yes, this universe, this creation, which is the dark portion of the creation. And it is said elsewhere that this is the quarter in size, right? So that means the entire creation is 16 billion miles. We could deduce that. So yeah, we learned that also, and we finished with understanding how many foundational successes from Keshav Swami's book and all of your inputs, and from so then I'd like to sort of end the class there. Thank you for wonderful inputs that you've created, and may we continue in this wonderful book that is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaur Premanande.